Last time on Cyberphile. We had an in-depth look at each of the 14 nations on the 4 continents in the Nameless Kingdom, providing us with an ever-important backdrop for our adventure. Welcome back, Saltborn! Welcome back to From the Depths. This will be our first actual episode. Last episode I just talked about the lands and the backstory of everything back on the mainland of Salt and Sanctuary, and it's really important that you get like a decent grasp, because it's honestly probably the most important part of the story of Salt and Sanctuary is the mainland. So let's go ahead and make our character. We talked about all of the different origins last episode. We're gonna be from Escaria. And let's just, I have kind of messy hair, so let's go with that. I like to make my characters kind of like how I am, so. Alright. So, from your classes, you can build your first character, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick with Knight, because it kind of fits the story that I want my character to have. And like I said in the last episode, Salt and Sanctuary is your story. So feel free to pick whatever character when you're making your character that you want. And, you know, now that you have a little bit of background about the origin of the world, it makes more sense about... You can make a little bit of sense of what to pick. So I'm going to do Knight, because Knight actually assumes that your character is Iscarian, because his shield that he has there is actually of a low-ranking knight in Iscarian society. So that's what we're going to stick with. But a lot of these characters, the armors and items that they have, actually kind of give them a little story. So, I already explained the Knight, but the Mage has all of the Acolyte gear for Mages of Fire and Sky. A Paladin and the Cleric both have shields that are sort of only given to followers by members of Devara's Light. And again, we'll talk about all the creeds and stuff much more in depth later. The Thief has his own story, and once we actually get into the story, I'll explain that a little more. Same thing with the Chef. And the Hunter is actually a sort of secret society of hunters that cull beasts, not unlike Bloodborne. And it's obviously a nod to Bloodborne. But there's actually a group that hunts beasts, or used to hunt beasts back in the day, called the Bloodbrows. And we'll talk about them again in depth later. I know everything's later, but let's just get into the game. Jump in. I'm going to be a knight, because the character I'm going to build is sort of a heavy armor, poleaxe sort of using character, so I already have stats equipped in my sword play and in heavy armor, which are the directions that I'm going to want to head on my tree of skill anyway. Lastly, my effect, I'm going to take the grasping ring with me, because more salt early in the game is always nice, especially if we can take out the first optional boss. And we're not going to do any challenges, it's just like a normal run or playthrough. So, let's do it. This world has known war for centuries. But peace is finally, preciously near. We'd deliver the princess to the kingdom across the sea, where a marriage alliance would save us all. Failing this mission would surely plunge us into darker days. So, we're given our first little semblance of story here. We are on a ship delivering a princess across the sea in the hopes of a marriage alliance. And let me just see what's going on here first. Ow. You there, stranger. We've been boarded in the night. They'll want to kidnap our lady. Ow. Ransom her. Protect her. Save us. And, as you can see, we've been boarded by marauders. So, if you look over here, in the top right here, you can actually see the princess and her handmaiden consoling her. So we've been boarded by these marauders in an effort to capture the princess for ransom, or perhaps to draw out the war in an effort to make, you know, commerce and industry boom. If there's no war, there's no one to buy weapons, right? So, the thing about the princess is that a lot of her is covered up, but we can see some of her features, which will allow us to sort of tell, where is the princess from? Like, what makes this story tick, so to speak? So, we can tell just from her skin color alone that she absolutely cannot be from Livin, Tannibur, Markdor, Gulchmeyer, or Kolkis. And again, just from skin color alone, she's got to be either Ascarian, from Dor Isle, Citadel, Cadania, Karhi, or Coast Rock. Now, the thing is, with all those nations, only one of them is known for nobility and for marriage alliances, and that's Ascaria. Another interesting thing is that the guys who are fighting, the guy who got killed by the Marauder, who's trying to protect the princess, actually wear an armor that is exclusive to the Three's creed. And as I stated before, the official creed of Ascaria is the Three, so it only makes sense that the princess is Ascarian. Since we're heading across the sea, and there are two nations that are known for marriage alliances, it would only make sense that the princess is heading from Ascaria to Tristan. So, let's see what else is going on here. We got some marauders to kill. So, and what's interesting is that these marauders are kind of special in that we won't fight them anymore in the game, but we'll fight something very similar to them. So, just keep that in mind. We're about to fight our first boss up here, and I'm just gonna unequip my armor, because speed is going to be the key when it comes to beating the guy we're about to fight. So we've been boarded in the night, and we see this fucking thing. The Unspeakable Deep. So what the Unspeakable Deep is a Kraken. And honestly, this battle is not too terribly difficult if you're careful, patient. It's quite a lengthy fight because you do crap for damage, and he's got a ton of HP. And one good hit from him and you're pretty much done. So, you gotta be kind of careful. All you can do is roll, swipe, swipe, roll, swipe, swipe. Pretty much. So, what the Unspeakable Deep is an ancient demon of the sea, known as a Kraken. And what the Kraken happen to be shapeshifters. They can take on many, many different forms. This, what we're seeing now, may be a Kraken in its basest form. Or perhaps that they're even more disturbing, and this is the only form that we can fully comprehend this creature as. So, just as human, taking a couple pages from Lovecraft's Eldritch Horror. So, the Kraken like to just sort of attack people at sea, and we'll see why soon. Kraken tend to feed on a number of things. The first of which is elemental energy. This is probably the least nourishing, because they're rather violent, making you wonder if maybe their other forms of sustenance are a little tastier or more nourishing. And those other forms are salt, which I'll talk a lot about sooner. Or their other form of nourishment is blood and excrement of human beings. So, obviously killing a human would help to sustain you a little bit. The trick with the Unspeakable Deep here is to just attack him twice, roll through whatever attack he does, and rinse and repeat. You don't want him in the corner, though, because sometimes his animation can get kind of screwy, and you'll end up just getting stomped. So, I actually died once trying to record this, because I didn't have my equip rate low enough, so I couldn't roll fast enough, and I got smacked. So, though speed is probably your best thing to have here, and heavy armor honestly isn't that great in this game. It doesn't scale very well, doesn't have very much damage, much more damage resistance than, say, a light armors. So you're better off just kind of sticking with light armor. But I guess this is kind of vain, but all the heavy armor looks so cool, so that's what we're gonna go with. I'm gonna do heavy armor, pole axes, shields, and a crossbow for some ranged action. So we'll be doing a dexterity build. But for now, it's just roll, swipe, swipe. We've almost got him down there. Whew. I don't think so. So you can kind of stagger him when you hit him enough times, and sometimes I can help you, and sometimes I can sort of bite you in the ass, especially if he does one of his quicker moves out of being staggered. Like I said, not a bad battle, just a lengthy one, and pretty much one hit and you're done. So, combine that with the fact that you do get fatigued a little bit. You can see my max stamina up in the left there, that green bar, is no longer all the way up. It's simply from fighting for so long and becoming fatigued. In fact, I might have to switch to just one swipe, because two seems a little more risky now. Unless he does like a longer wind-up move like that. Or the one-arm pound. The two-arm pound is the one you gotta watch out for. That's the quick one. Roll, swipe, swipe. Wait for it, roll, swipe. I missed the second swipe. Dangerous. Don't like having him in the corner there. Sometimes his jump gets messed up, and it's incredibly dangerous. So we're just gonna lure him out of that corner for the next roll. We almost got him, though. And there we go. The Unspeakable Deep is unspeakably dead. Failing this mission would surely plunge us into darker days. I awoke to the sounds of waves washing on rock, and I knew I was alive. I must find the princess. Hey, the Drowned Tome. I wrote one of those. So, our problem now is that our ship could not handle that monstrosity hopping around like nobody's business, so we've washed up on this strange island, the Shivering Shores, and we're met with an old man. Let's see what he has to say. Well, hello there. You're just a fleshy bit of flotsam, washed ashore with the rest of us, You want shelter, you want sanctuary. But what is a sanctuary without faith? There's an empty sanctuary up the beach. You can claim it for your creed. Tell me, do you keep the new gods? So here is where you can pick your first creed. There are 3 of them, and I'm just going to say no so that it can cycle through all of them and you can see all the dialogue. You don't keep the new gods. Rare. So are you a pilgrim of Devara? Your sort have been dying out for centuries, I'm afraid. No? Do you hold no gods at all? You're either brave, foolish, or from the north. You don't look particularly brave, but you don't seem particularly foolish anyway. Are you a mountainsmith? No? What was your creed then? So here we have our 3 creeds. The 3, as I mentioned before, is the official creed of Iscaria, so that's what I'm going to end up picking. The new gods. You notice he said the new gods. It's because the 3 are kind of a newer creed, sort of forced upon the people. And I'll talk more about that later. But the goddess of light, the pilgrims of Devara, are the ones that have been sort of there first, so to speak. Then the iron ones hold no gods. And I'll talk about all 3 of these creeds in depth much later. For now, let's just pick the 3 and continue our journey. Most men follow the 3 deities, the king, the knight, and the judge. The king leads wisdom to men who lead, the knight protects warriors in combat, and the judge guides those who maintain order. Are you a follower of the 3 then? I'm actually going to hit no so you can see the full dialogue for all 3 of these. Men from the mountains of the northern continent of Markdor are Iron Ones. They believe in no gods, believing instead in the iron will of man. They love steel but hate magic. You remember the Iron Ones then? And then, let's see this. Followers of the goddess of light worship Devara, deity of humility, kindness, and forgiveness. Her creed is perhaps the oldest known creed, though this could be a consequence of its cleric's meticulous record-keeping. Are you a pilgrim of Devara's light, then? Alright, so let's just pick the 3, get on with our life. You're a follower of the 3, as I suspected. Here's a candelabra of the 3, icon of your creed. You survived a shipwreck, didn't you? This island is full of shipwrecked sailors like you. I stand here on the beach, I see men drown, I see men survive, but I never see rescue. Perhaps this island is cursed. But weren't you already thinking that? But have I seen a princess? Perhaps. Perhaps. Why is a princess so important? Living or dead, we're all the same flesh. Maybe I'm your princess, adorned in the skin of a decrepit old man. Hehehe. Well, go find your princess. You know what they say. The quest goes a long way to keeping the madness at bay. Sanctuary is simple, but salvation is not. Alright. So, he actually gave us quite a bit of detail. This island is full of shipwrecked sailors, which means that people who are lost at sea seem to wind up here on the island. And as you can see, we've got some rotten walkers over here, zombies, so to speak. And we'll get our first key to our sanctuary. So why are there zombies on the island? Why are there undead things on the island? That's because anything that dies at sea or is left out to sea winds up on this island, which I'll refer to from here on as the Nameless Island, or just the island. So let's open the door, and as you notice, there was no island on the world map. So what does this mean? Let's claim this sanctuary for our creed. And I think I'll just grab the item that's on top of the sanctuary here. Maybe a couple pieces of gold as well. And we got some red shards, which are used for healing, and a patch of salt, which we can use to gain more salt. So as you can see, we have quite a bit from defeating the Unspeakable Deep. Now, what salt is life essence. It's essentially, salt is your soul. Any creature that you kill in this game drops salt. Or almost any creature anyway. And that's because those that have ever lived, essentially, are born of salt. And you can use salt to level up. And that's what we're going to do. Just going to use up all of our salt, level up, and we'll peek into the Tree of Skill. There are lots of stories that you can see here through the Tree of Skill, like you can see through arrows and blades had pierced his flesh, etc., etc. Each one of these has a different story to it. And what I'm going to do is I'll make videos later on the full stories in order, because these are all out of order and they're just kind of like blurbs of every single story here in the Tree of Skill, so look forward to those videos. I'm just going to set my points, because we want to use mostly poleaxes, heavy armor, and shields. So I'm just going to kind of build them up kind of equally. So we'll do our pikemen, class 1 shields, we already have class 1 armor, and so let's work on class 2 stuff. So let's head towards the class 2 pikemen, which is up this tree. And class 2 shields is off in this direction. Alright, and we got a number of stats along our way as well. Willpower, strength, endurance. You can look real quickly at our stats. Strength deals with any weapons that scale with strength. So over here in my inventory here, you can see my sword scales with both strength and dexterity, more so with dexterity than strength. So the more points you have in strength, the more damage a sword will do, marginally, not as much as dexterity. Strength and dexterity are more or less the same thing, just for different weapons. Endurance has an effect on your equip rate, so you can see I'm at 71.8%. If you go over 75, you fat roll, which means you roll really slow and it kind of sucks. And as you saw, I had to remove a bunch of my clothes in order to beat the Unspeakable Deep. And then we've got willpower, which is your stamina. It determines how much maximum stamina you have and how quickly it regens. Then magic is for magic skills, and wisdom is for prayers. And both magic and wisdom can also scale certain weapons up as well. But I'll talk more about these items that we've acquired on the next episode of From the Depths with Cyberphile. I hope to see you then. Hey, thanks for watching! Don't forget to subscribe for more Cyberphile content, and if you liked this video, show me with that little thumbs up button. If you liked this video, you might like one of my other videos. You can click right on the boxes to jump to them. Cyberphile, offline.